All right, Casey. Um, you're gonna need a 9-inch, only one, unless you want to make two. You're gonna need unblocked or unbaked pie shell. Okay. Now, for your pie shell, you're gonna have to bake the pie shell for 475 for 3 minutes. When the timer goes off, you take it out and let it sit. While that's sitting, you're gonna have to put a one cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of white sugar, plain sugar, 1 tablespoon of flour in the blender. You're gonna have to use the blender, and 1 tablespoon of vanilla, 2 eggs. Now, when after you crack the egg, use the biggest eggshell and put your milk in and put it in the blender. Now, for the blocks of melted chocolate, now this is where it's tricky because you have to put 1 stick of butter and then the blocks of chocolate. It has to be unsweetened. Now, excuse me. But everything else goes in the blender. Now, when you melt the 1 stick of butter and then the blocks and on top of the stove, you pour that in the blender, mix it all up, then you put it in your pie that you already cooked for 3 minutes. And then you put it in the oven for 325 for 40 minutes. And actually, no, for the or for the vanilla, it's one teaspoon of vanilla. I looked at it wrong, sorry. Um, and then for this says 1 block, where you get 1 block of unsweetened chocolate and then a half a block of another one. But we haven't done that. But it still tastes like mom's pie. We only did 3 blocks, or like the small blocks. Because I'm actually reading the recipe. to kind of explain to you on what you need to do, but I will make another video on how I make it. But I'm trying to explain to you on what the recipe says, but it says 1 teaspoon of vanilla, but you do have to use half eggshell, meaning when you crack your egg, when you crack the 2 eggs, you have to use the biggest bottom half of the egg that you cracked and pour the milk in, and then pour it in the blender. And then for the stick of melted, or a stick of butter, and then the blocks of unsweetened chocolate, it has to melt on the stove top. And then when everything is melted, you put it in the blender, you cut it on, you pour it in the pie shell, you cook it in the oven for 40 minutes. Now, I will make another video on how I did it, but I wanted to explain to you on how the recipe says. So, if you still want a video on how I make it, let me know. But this, I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know. But I'm telling you on what you need to do in the blender first before you melt the butter and the chocolate. Because you have to put everything in the blender first and then melt the chocolate in the blocks before you can pour it in the blender and blend it up, and then you pour it in your pie shell, and then you bake it for 40 minutes on 325. So if you want another video on how I did it, I will do it. Love you. Peace out. Bye.